More than half of Europe's population will be hit by another heat wave, with the thermometer climbing to over 30 degrees Celsius. It comes as once again the continent faces soaring temperatures following back-to-back heat waves in recent months. The most intense heat is expected in Western and Southern Europe, with France, Italy and Spain among the hardest hit regions. But the heat wave also extends towards the Balkans, especially Greece and the Adriatic coast. And in the United Kingdom, the government will hold an emergency COBRA meeting in response to the extreme heat. It will mark the nation's second meeting of its sort this year. Scientists have blamed the growing heat waves on human-caused climate change. Europe is the world's fastest warming continent. The repeated heat waves have fueled widespread drought and intense wildfires this year.
Germany has approved a draft law to reform the legal framework governing the intelligence services. The aim is to improve efforts to combat terrorism and extremism. Nina Walken, Chief of Staff to the Chancellor, says she is worried about the future of Germany and its democracy.
Ständig Ziel hybrider Angriffe fremder Mächte, und das ist eine reale, eine sehr akute Gefahr. Ja, es ist eine Gefahr für unsere freie Gesellschaft, unser Werteverständnis, unsere Sicherheit und damit genau das, was unser Land in seinem Fundament ausmacht. Und bislang, das muss man objektiv festhalten, haben wir uns in zu vielen sicherheitsrelevanten Bereichen darauf verlassen, dass unsere Sicherheit von unseren Partnern mit gewährleistet wird.
In future, the authorities are to be allowed to intervene actively, for example in response to cyber attacks and disinformation campaigns targeting Germany. Intelligence services would also get more powers to access laptops, cell phones and other devices and store the data. Meanwhile, some, including the Green Party intelligence expert Konstantin Van Notz, said that although the reform was urgently necessary, the government's plans go too far. Modern Germany remains highly sensitive to data protection, shaped by memories of Nazi and later by communist East Germany's secret police.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has threatened to seize ships belonging to European countries in retaliation for plans to intercept and seize Russian vessels suspected of being part of Moscow's so-called shadow fleet. New sanctions passed last month now permit EU members to sell the oil or any other cargo seized from these vessels. Putin slammed the move, calling it piracy.
Мы видим, что власти некоторых стран в нарушении международного морского права пытаются ограничить движение судов наших эконом-операторов. Мирно, подчеркну. А недавно додумались до возможности захвата наших судов и продажи награбленного у нас имущества. Разумеется, это не что иное, как пиратство и разбой. И если это на практике начнет реализовываться, мы вынуждены будем отвечать зеркально.
Several European countries have intercepted ships that were carrying Russian oil or other cargo. These vessels are often old and in poor condition and are used to circumvent Western sanctions on Russia. One of such vessels seized was a Russian ship suspected of transporting grain from occupied Ukraine. Swedish court documents showed Stockholm will transfer the ship to Kyiv.
Russia launched nearly 140 drones and multiple missiles in overnight attacks on Ukraine, according to authorities. At least 2 people were killed, including a woman whose house was hit, and 2 were injured in strikes on the city of Kherson. In the southeastern city of Zaporizhia, firefighters were tackling a fire at a shopping mall following a Russian strike, according to Ukraine's state emergency services. Also in the south, another Russian attack on Odessa caused a fire in a multi-story residential building. According to Ukraine's armed forces, 112 of the drones were neutralized. Meanwhile, Ukrainian drone strikes on Russia's Novorossiysk killed 2 people, including an 8-year-old child, as well as wounding 8 people, according to the regional governor. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that Kyiv had carried out a unique operation targeting the naval base in Novorossiysk, the last major stronghold of the Russian fleet in the Black Sea. Russia shot down 502 Ukrainian drones across its territory and the Black Sea overnight, its defense ministry said in a statement.
Following the migration crisis where tens of thousands of people forced their way into the Spanish enclave of Ceuta on 30 and 31st of July, Morocco's National Human Rights Council has presented a report accusing the Spanish police of assaulting those migrants with allegations of mistreatment that, according to the text, occurred out of camera view. This is not the first time this council has pinned the responsibility on the Spanish authorities for keeping gates closed, as it targeted Spain in 2022 after the Melilla border fence was stormed, which resulted in the death of 23 people. The latest accusation comes just one day after Ceuta received Foreign Minister José Manuel Álvarez, who traveled on Tuesday and emphasized cooperation with Morocco to return migrants who entered illegally.
La integridad del espacio Schengen está totalmente garantizada en Ceuta y en Melilla. Y también, igualmente, aprovecho para plantear en Europa la necesidad de reforzar el apoyo a Ceuta, también a Melilla, y de que se tenga en cuenta su especificidad también desde un punto de vista social y económica.
But these positive words toward Morocco came while the neighboring country claims sovereignty over Ceuta and Melilla, 2 autonomous cities that have never belonged to Morocco, despite being in Africa. The Spanish minister, who has avoided confrontation with his southern neighbor, promised that every single person who crossed irregularly would be returned to Morocco, a message also directed at the other 26 EU member states that have criticized Spain's migration policies.
Hungarian lawmakers approved former Supreme Court Chief András Baka as the country's new president on Tuesday. The move comes following the contested removal last month of the previous head of state, as Prime Minister Péter Magyar works to loosen the grip of his predecessor, Viktor Orbán, over state institutions. Baka served 17 years as a judge on the European Court of Human Rights. He was elected with 140 votes in favour and 6 votes against.
Azt gondoljuk, hogy Baka András egy valóban a politikai pártoktól független, szuverén ember, aki nem hiszem, hogy bármilyen módon befolyásolható lesz bármelyik politikai oldalról.
In his inaugural address, the new president said he had not expected to take on such a role, but seeing that young people and rural voters had voted for change, accountability and social reconciliation, he felt ready to step into the position.
A köztársasági elnök ehhez saját alkotmányos hatásköreinek következetes, átlátható és független gyakorlásával járulhat hozzá. Nem írhat alá törvényeket puszta formalitásként, nem tekintheti magát a mindenkori parlamenti többség vagy a kormány meghosszabbított kezének, és nem hallgathat akkor, amikor az alkotmányos működés alapvető kérdései forognak kockán.
Orbán's Fidesz party, along with its ally KDNP, boycotted the parliamentary vote. They argued that the TISA party illegitimately removed the previous president.
Baka András megválasztásával nem ért véget a vita a köztársasági elnöki pozícióról. Az új államfőnek be kell bizonyítania, hogy valóban az alkotmányosság őrzője, és nem a TISA kétharmad kinevezettje. Egy olyan ember, aki hosszú idő után először képes kifejezni a nemzet egységét. Az pedig még csak a jövőben fog eldőlni, hogy az új alkotmány milyen jogköröket ad majd a köztársasági elnöknek, és a TISA betartja-e régi ígéretét, miszerint a következő államfőt már a magyarok közvetlenül fogják megválasztani. Siposegyi Zoltán, Euronews, Budapest.
Colombian rescuers are racing against time to find more survivors after the devastating 7.4 magnitude earthquake that killed at least 216 people. A 32-year-old woman was recently pulled alive from a collapsed building, sparking cheers as exhausted crews continue searching for survivors. Across western Colombia, soldiers, firefighters and volunteers used cranes, sniffer dogs and heavy machinery to search collapsed buildings. In Cali, residents also dug through rubble with picks, shovels and their bare hands. Beyond the rescue effort, many families spent the night outdoors as aftershocks rattled damaged neighborhoods. A park in Pereira became a makeshift shelter for people who had lost their homes. The earthquake also damaged a hospital in Cali, forcing doctors to treat some patients outside. President Abelardo de la Espriella declared a state of emergency and promised rent subsidies.